Welcome back, everyone. I am, of course, Kieran Kyo here. I'm talking about Euro 2012. We were talking about Group D, of course, the group of England, France, and of course, the other two teams in that group are the Ukraine and Sweden. Of course, I've got a few buddies over there in Sweden, and I'm sure you'll be maybe going for Sweden in some of these matches, I don't know, but I'm sure you'll be going for them in a certain match anyway. Sweden, I would say, have a small chance, but they would be one of the underdogs in this group. Although they got to the semi-finals back in 2004, European Championship 2004. They've had their moments. Of course, they had, big players like Henrik Larsson, Marcus Allback, and them guys back in the day. I'm not sure. I don't think Larsson's coming out of retirement this time to play for them. Maybe he's still playing. I'm not sure much about the Swedish, but who knows? Who the hell knows? Freddie Ljungberg, of course, big name for them also. But Sweden's always a very dark horse in these championships, and of course in past World Cups. Of course, as you might recall, in 1994, the Swedes, a young Henrik Larsson, of course, people like Thomas Brolin and them guys helped Sweden get to the semi-finals and come third, get the third place playoff against Portugal, or against Bulgaria in that particular World Cup. Of course, Portugal failed to qualify that year, but that's totally out of the picture. Sweden are a force to be reckoned with as far as being underdogs and as far as being one of them dark horses. The other teams in the group, of course, the Ukraine are the hosts in that group, and the Ukraine always very unpredictable. They're dark horses as well, no doubt about it. They, of course, boast the same colours as Sweden, of course, the yellow and the blue. Great team. Andrei Shevchenko, one of the big names for the Ukraine. Probably the talisman up front for them over the years. Their first World Cup, of course, was in 2006 in Germany, when, of course, they got to the quarterfinals that year. Yes, indeed. They got to the quarterfinals, putting out Switzerland in the second round in a very stale match, where a stalemate went to penalties and the Ukrainians won. Of course, then in the quarterfinals, I understand they got put out by Germany 3-2. But they have, in their first World Cup, very much like the Irish, in their first World Cup, getting to the quarterfinals was something. And since that, they've been in, I think they were in the 2008 European Championships, and they've had some interesting runs in qualifying campaigns as well, going up against England and the likes of it. So England and Ukraine have crossed paths before. But let's talk about Ukraine and France. Or let's talk about England and France. The French and the English over the years, down through history, have not gotten along too well. Of course, you look at the French record over the last number of years in big major tournaments has not been good. They have done everything. They won the double. They came to life in 1996, the European Championships, doing pretty well, getting to the semi-finals. And then they really came into their own. 1998, France 98, some great players. They weren't expected to win it, but they did. They won it on home soil in Paris after not qualifying for the 94 World Cup in the USA. France, of course, went on then to qualify to host the 98 World Cup and won it. And people like Thierry Henry and Nicolas Anelka, and of course other big names such as the great goalkeeper Fabien Barthez, all these guys went on to become big players in the Premiership and in the other European leagues, and really was the precursor that would eventually lead to and culminate in their Euro 2000 success, and a very much like this tournament, a lot of groups of death, a lot of great matches in Euro 2000, but France prevailed as the Euro 2000 champions, much like Spain did at the World Cup in 2006, and then in the World Cup in 2010, and then and before that Euro 2008. But so the French are big prospects, I think, now once again. They went on then, of course, 2002, they done terrible. they went downhill, totally lost it. They weren't in good form in the camp at World Cup 2002, and it showed. Then they got, of course, beaten by Senegal, the minnow African side, who went on to get to the quarterfinals, putting out Sweden, who's also in this group. But all these things link together when you think about it. But the French, then after that, after 2002, they won the Confederations Cup in 2003, beating Cameroon in the final. That was the time, of course, Marc-Vivien Foé died. It was a terrible tragedy at the time. Also, then, of course, in 2004, the French were in England's group, as they are this year. They were in England's group, of course, in that particular European Championships. And in that year, they, of course, they didn't. It was in Portugal, of course. England and France. They beat England, but they got to the second round, but they didn't progress after that. They weren't too good. They got put out, of course, by the Greeks. Then, of course, the French went on then in 2006 and were in the World Cup in Germany. And they'd done a lot better that year. Ultimately getting put out by Italy in the final. They got to the final once again, started to come back, into their own a bit. The Italians won the final anyway against the French that year, and it was great stuff indeed. And in 2010 in South Africa, they didn't do well at all, getting put out by Spain in the quarters, I understand. So the French have had very up and down period. They won the European Championships back in 1984, when, of course, Michel Platini was the star, and now he is, of course, the president of UEFA. So all these things go full circle. Interesting stuff. England v France will be a massive match to watch in that first match for the English. The English, a lot of people around that I would know, and a lot of Irish fans would have it. They'd be wanting the English to get beat and stuff, and it wouldn't be exactly. In my opinions, the English are what you see, and their personalities are very changing. A lot of English, I would find there's a lot of nice English people. As far as the football goes, the football fans, there's a lot of hooligans there. It kind of puts you off them a bit. But I would have no hatred towards the English, but I would have I love a lot of English people. I love English people. I think a lot of English people. I have a lot of English friends, and I would have no. There's a kind of a petty kind of friendly rivalry there, of course, but isn't it good that it's came to that? Because let's be honest about it, it was nothing to do with me. The end of the bad feeling in the past. And I think it's a testament to the relationship up between the two, Ireland and England and all. When what happened last year with the Queen coming over and all, it was pretty cool. In my opinion, I'm not that bothered about any of it, but at the same time, you have to recognise these things. So, if the English do well, what the hell, but just hope we do better. I think they have a better chance of maybe progressing and maybe going further because of the draw, but we could meet them. I'm just going to mention now our own group. I said earlier, of course, I think England and France are going to get through that group. It's going to be tough, but Sweden and Ukraine just mightn't have what it takes to get the job done against them too.